Angus, are you ready?
I'm ready when you are.
You know what to do. Clap us in. Welcome along to the Whiskey Stories podcast, Indy Bottler Spotlight!
That's the biggest welcome I think we've had.
You can tell it's a Friday night. Normally we do these on a Thursday night, but we have been moved to a Friday night, which isn't a bad thing. It's great, and guess what? It is one day to go until Dry January is over. So, I mean, if you are here tonight, you failed. You failed at the final hurdle. But Angus, we are back.
We absolutely are, yeah. I did notice long-time listener Nadine on the Facebook group said she was starting Dry January at 11:45 tonight.
There you go.
So,
there you go. Yeah, good luck to her for that, and thank you very much for all our comments and things like that as well. But we are joined. We have a fantastic lineup this evening. We have George and Rachel Keeble from Fragrant Drops.
Can I cheer myself?
Yeah, cheer yourself. Yes.
Yeah. Woo-hoo-hoo.
Welcome back.
Wait, great.
Welcome back to the Whiskey Stories podcast.
Oh, thanks so
It's great
much.
to have you. We look back through the
annals of time.
The archives, the annals of time of the Whiskey Stories podcast. 6th of February was when you guys were in. First time we'd ever met you. It was fantastic to have you on. Now, I'm going to run a little test to you. Can you remember, each of you got a what 3 drams? Can you remember your what 3 drams from that? Can you remember the evening? Because I can't. It was a blur, to be perfectly honest. But can you remember your what 3 drams?
I'll let you go first, I think, to be honest. Tumbleweed.
George, what
there's a lovely independent bottler called Blackadder who many years ago bottled a Blairfindie, which is an unnameable Glenfarclas. It was a single cask from Blackadder. So Blairfindie 45-year-old.
Wow.
Delicious, and it was special because I shared it and enjoyed it with a friend who sadly is no longer with us.
Right.
Very sad.
Very sad.
Cry.
Wow.
Springbank 10 because I still believe this. I think it's of all the core range whiskies, I think it's the best 10-year-old single malt Scotch whiskey, or best 10-year-old single malt value for money in the world for me. And then lastly, I think the last one was some single cask thing that I stole from my last
You're not supposed to admit to that, George.
My
Jesus.
last shift working as a distiller at Starward Distillery in Australia several years ago.
Thanks to everyone listening in Australia. Hello.
I stole 2 bottles.
George, Jesus, man.
Yeah.
It was my last shift.
Yeah, quite right.
And it was night shift.
Yeah,
So
who's
I
going
was
to
the
know?
only person in the distillery.
Who's going to know until
Who's
then?
going to know?
Yeah, we'll soon know if we do have any listeners in Australia.
Well, he did it back to front. He went to Australia, committed a crime, and then got sent back to the UK. So,
How are the turntables?
how are the times?
Rachel, can you remember yours?
Just about. I think I'd picked like a very old Brora that right at the start of my whiskey journey, back when Diageo's special releases included proper, mega dram. Not that they're not now, but like real, unicorn drams. And that was a real eye-opener for me. That was back at Soho Whisky Club with you. I included independently bottled, destined for the Asian market, a Macduff that I think was sherried, if memory
15-year-old
serves.
sherry, yep,
And
brilliant.
the reason why that was special was because it was in a lovely little whiskey bar in Melbourne, run by a very lovely pair of chaps called Kelvin and Yao. And it was the first time that I'd seen independently bottled whiskies look like they did. It was just a wall of really
cool.
bright labels, and it was just lush. It was
Nice
really
one.
lush. And then what the hell was my last one? Oh yeah, a very young 80s bottling. It might have been 80s or 90s bottling of a Little Mill that I got for like £4 or something.
Your memory serves you
in
well.
the arse end of nowhere, just before getting the ferry over to Orkney, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was John O'Groats. The Seaview Hotel.
The Sea, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Shout out to the Seaview
Which
Hotel.
sounds a lot nicer than it
Yeah.
is.
Maybe not a shout out to the Seaview Hotel.
I won't be sticking my head in there
The
again.
view out's a lot better than the view in.
No, it's just the carpet is very questionable. Like that carpet is.
You wipe your feet when you
Yeah,
move
like
your way out.
that carpet's seen things, man.
Well, there we go. Well,
I think, without further ado.
yeah, we are getting thirsty, and we've got some
we should
fantastic
talk about,
drinks in front of us.
talk about the first dram we
Yeah,
have here.
We are going back to front this
Okay,
evening.
let's go.
We are starting with the dram that's furthest away
Shit,
from you.
I've knocked mine up already. It's alright, I can tell what it is.
So we are kicking off things with we're going oldest first. So this is quite a special single cask release. This is a single grain Scotch whisky from a distillery that closed down in 1983. This is a Carsebridge from 1975, bottled 48 years later at the ABV of 45.3% alcohol. Good yield we got from this, 202 bottles. So the lineup that we're having tonight, the first three, we've done absolutely nothing with.
Yeah.
Really?
And then the last three, we've done our own finishes on them.
Superb.
So, you know, with this one, as with all casks that we buy, we don't have the luxury of being able to taste them first. We have to buy on spec or on speculation. We just have to buy it and then order a sample after we've paid for it and hope that it doesn't taste shite. And with this one, I was quite concerned because one, it was very expensive to buy. And two, it's very old, and with very old whiskies, when you're talking about something that's over 30 years old, there's very much a risk of the whiskey being
Cooked.
too old.
Yeah.
Whiskey does go off at some point, or it drops below 40% ABV. We have
That's happened to us
have
a few times,
recently
yeah.
purchased several casks that were actually under 40%.
So watch out for any rum finishes coming.
Yeah, very wet rum casks. Yeah. But yeah, with this, we got it to the bottling hall after we bought it, and I said to one of the guys in the warehouse, just pull a sample out. I'm going to drive there tomorrow. Does it smell?
You couldn't wait, could you?
Does it smell like very funky, as in bad? And the guy said it's very funky, and I thought, shite. So jumped in the car the morning after and went straight there and immediately nosed. I was like, oh no, that's absolutely fine. What are you talking about? It's delicious. We did catch this cask, I think, at the right time. Another few years, and I think that the funk, the kind of the dankness, the lovely kind of newspapery, wet cardboard, vegetal notes that are gently coming through, they would be too much and it would be ruined. But I think we just caught it just on the cusp. So there's some lovely, wet newspaper coming through, and I mean that in a nice way.
Yeah,
That's not very
I would say
appetising.
in a very nice way, it's reminiscent of when we do the podcast from downstairs in the basement, but in a kind of
Oh my God.
I'm not selling it very well, but in a
Excuse me,
nice way.
Bristol?
Smells like the digger's cellar.
No,
there
but
you
it
go.
does have that kind of
I get quite a lot of baked banana
Yeah.
or banana skins,
Yeah.
very overripe bananas, which is why we on the label opted to rip off a Banksy.
Well, that's the thing. For people who maybe aren't familiar with Fragrant Drops as a brand, first of all, it's all about standing out. And, feel free to tuck into these drams, guys. There's water in front of
please.
you, and
Slush.
enjoy it.
Slush
Cheers. Here's to the
Slush.
first one.
Cheers.
Yep, cheers.
When
Up your bum.
when you
Sorry.
when you look at different, when you're looking at all the different bottle types, and we're in the Athletic Arms Diggers, over 800 open bottles of whiskey to try, and I think Kev's done a great job of having all the Fragrant Drops front and centre this
I
evening
know.
on
People
the back
do
bar
that.
there.
I don't know why.
Well,
Lovely to see.
but the thing is, it's all about what stands out. There's you can go down the classic route, the tall round screw top bottles. You could go down all sorts. Also the labelling. Now the labels are quite unique for Fragrant Drops, with the kind of, as George has mentioned. So Rachel, what's the sort of reasoning and mind behind the labels that you guys pick?
Generally, our bottlings are supposed to look like apothecary bottles, and I think actually that can be quite confusing to people that have never tried our stuff. They think, well, what the hell's that? Is it a liqueur? Like people like are kind of very tentative to approach us at whiskey festivals sometimes, unless George like physically goes and grabs them, press gangs them.
Yeah.
We'll try this, because it doesn't necessarily read whiskey, right? But I don't mind that necessarily. It generates conversation, as we see from newer brands now. Everyone's kind of wanting to distinguish themselves a bit. Most of our labels are illustrated by a wonderful artist called Laura New, who I used to work with at the Royal Academy of Arts. Very fancy, but not in a very fancy way. Ooh. And usually they're kind of like in an etching style drawing. Sometimes they'll be quite classical. Pictures of a distillery, but let's be honest, most distilleries aren't that sexy to look at or draw. They're not very. So we just have a bit of fun with it, really. And sometimes the meanings of labels are pretty tenuous, or we have to really explain them. That's fine. But this one in particular that we're looking at, because it was such a special whiskey, and we were really, really quite humbled and honoured to be able to bottle this. Because without sounding like a complete C unit, this is a little bit of whiskey history. It is. It really is.
When you get an opportunity to try, and I think that's the beauty of single grain whiskey. We've talked a lot about it on the podcast. We've had a lot of fantastic single grain whiskey. You can get some great aged stuff, and also when you try and think about comparing what you would be paying for a 48-year-old single malt whiskey, what does this retail at if people can get hold of it?
It retails between, the cheapest I've seen it online at is £225 to £240.
Yeah, so still...
Which is not bad for a
48-year-old from a ghost distillery
whiskey.
as well.
It's also worth noting that there was an official bottling of a Carsebridge 48-year-old done by Diageo several years ago.
Yeah,
for
it was.
The Diageo special releases. That retails for, I think, about £800-900.
Really?
Yeah.
Even $1,000. So...
Look at that, and you would get this for 25 quid, that's just one of six. We're good to use it.
This whiskey is very special though, I don't know if any of you have ever been to Clackmannanshire Whisky Festival, and that area is obviously very, very important in grain production and also just whiskey as a whole.
Just whiskey history
and
in general.
Honestly, man, they're going to that festival, and there's loads of the old people that would be working, not old, actually they probably are quite old, but that used to work there, and the pride that they've got in it. Yeah. It's so lovely, to be part of that.
And grain whiskey.
In a very small way, of course, but
the flavour profiles that you do get out of grain whiskey are fantastic.
Yeah.
And I think for anybody who does listen to the podcast who's never decided to try grain whiskey before, we talked a lot about it with Stephen Woodcock on one of the last episodes that we did.
Yeah.
And he was talking about spending what distillery it was, Port Dundas.
He started that.
And he was talking about the fact that, as you've said, some distilleries aren't built to be looked at. Grain whiskies aren't. Grain whiskies are just massive production factories. They are they're whiskey factories. We're a stone's throw away from one of the biggest with North British just down the road there.
My favourites.
And the thing is, there's so many people that are in Edinburgh and would pass around this place and you'll still smell it when the brewing's going on.
Yeah.
I love driving past and smelling it.
But people don't know that from a whiskey history point of view, the amount of history and heritage that North British as a brand has, as a distillery has, because it's not a brand. But that's the thing. The beauty of it is it's very difficult to go out and actually buy a distillery specific bottling of grain whiskey. But yet when Indy Bottlers come on, and we've got yourselves, when we've had some fantastic ones, and it's great. And how hard is it then, or easy is it to source grain whiskey at that age?
That age, not easy.
You were biting the hands off.
There's, we do own quite a lot of grain that's around the kind of 25 to 30 year old casks. We've got quite a few of those. But when it starts getting into 40 plus, they don't crop up very often. We are just about to bottle in fact at the moment, I think maybe in the next couple of weeks, we're going to bottle an Invergordon 50-year-old.
Wow.
Which is, and I don't mean to toot my own horn, but I think that's actually the
Do it.
I think it's I think, and I've had a lot of grain whiskey. I think it's the nicest grain whiskey I've ever had.
Really?
Probably the oldest thing you've ever bottled.
Yes.
Yes, it will be.
This
is merely the second oldest thing we've ever
and this
bottled.
is a great thing as well. When we're talking about a distillery that's closed in 1983, there's not going to be many other bottles left that you'll see on the market at Carsebridge?
I've only been offered. I mean, I've been
Yeah.
buying and selling casks of whiskey for several years, and I can count on my fingers the number of times
About 9
I've
years,
I've even been offered Carsebridge casks.
Yeah.
You know, same goes for Cambus as well.
Yeah.
And north of Scotland as well. So when I first started the business, which the main business is we deal in casks. When I first started the business, I was offered some really old 50 to 60 year old casks of north of Scotland single grain.
So where North of Scotland Distillery then? That
Yeah, the distillery.
where was that? Because I've that's one that slipped my.
You're testing me now.
I know.
Anyone know? Do you know?
Somewhere
Anyone know?
around, not a million miles away from Glasgow.
Right,
Somewhere
so it's
between
kind of
Glasgow and
Central
Edinburgh.
Belt, right,
But I might be
okay.
wrong. Yeah,
I
Central
think
Belt.
Google's our friend.
Google is our friend.
Yeah, because that's the distillery. The name.
North of
just-
Scotland, there have
yeah.
been many, and at the time, I started the business with my savings, my life savings, and I didn't have enough money. So I sold them, and those casks have been bottled up by other people at the time, and they and I bought some of those bottles, and yeah, I really wish I'd have had the money.
That was one of your
at the
biggest
ti-
regrets,
at the
wasn't
time.
it,
Yeah,
for
definitely.
what-
Like, it's horrible to be able to have to pass on certain stocks, but I just had I had no
In
money.
Dumbarton.
Dunbarton.
Oh, really?
So you were right.
Yeah.
So I mean, it must
Well
be
done,
from an independent bottler point of view. Then you know, we've had a lot of indie bottlers coming onto the podcast. This is our 5th or 6th Indy Bottler
Yeah, I
Spotlight.
think so, yeah.
So we, and grain whiskey has been very prominent. However, what we also know is that the production of grain whiskey is very much about getting liquid out there, and we know where it goes a lot of the time into sort of blenders and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Is there a general rule of thumb with the cask type and the kind of age that when you start looking at a list of inventory and you can see, right, because you talked about the overcooking point of view as well, but then what we also, how often will a grain distillery use first fill casks versus
Very
second, third, or
rarely.
fourth?
Very rarely.
So from that point of view and then of course, as you've mentioned, you have to buy on spec. So
Yeah.
you don't know whether that cask that you've purchased has just been a wooden container for the last 10 years, adding absolutely nothing to the liquid as well.
We bottled a North British, actually, a 29-year-old a while ago, like a year or so ago, that was fully matured in a first fill bourbon barrel.
And we did one for the ensign as well.
We bought a bunch of them,
Yeah.
and then and actually I didn't have the money to buy them.
Well, you had the money to buy them.
Which is a common theme, actually, where I buy stuff and then realise I can't pay for them. But
But then buy a bottle of whoever does buy it and bottle it.
So I panicked, and Rachel was like, "Yeah, we've got like minus money in the books." So I had to sell some, but in between selling, I sold a few, and then the samples turned up for all of them, and I was kicking myself. All utterly. So we bottled the Persista cask for the ensign Ewart. And we have a few more, which they're really tight casks, super ultra sweet.
That's my taste
and
note,
I
lush.
kind of want to. I want to bottle one at least one of them when it's 40 or more years old.
Super.
But it's very hard when something tastes so good, as it does right now, to not bottle it.
We just as a little aside as well, when you're talking about cask types and the respect that grain spirit is given, which is quite a lot of the time zero.
Yeah.
We met up with some Diageo people the other day, and I'd never made this connection. I just thought it was a really good point. At points of like boom and bust in life, and if you think about the last financial crisis that happened, when was it?
2008.
Yeah.
2008. We've got loads of casks that we own that are in surprising casks. For example, the North British that we recently brought out, which was 15 years old, that was fully matured in a red wine cask, which we thought was really weird that it had been given that respect.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, it's because...
It turned out it was because the world's economies were grinding to a halt in 2008 and 2009. And that included like mass cooperages and the transport of wood around the world across the Atlantic. And so big companies like Diageo and others, they needed some wood to fill spirit into, and so they opted for like wine casks from France.
Which would have been-
which is interesting.
So interesting,
So
isn't
it was
it?
just the kind of availability thing.
Yeah, no, that was it. But like, so the North British 15-year-old that we recently bottled, which is super dark, super red, full maturation red wine, and then next we're bottling a 2009 Blair Athol, full maturation of red wine. Same reason.
Same
reason.
Same reason.
Fantastic.
Quite interesting.
Yeah,
Very interesting.
Oh, and what we'll do, guys, is we'll finish these two.
Yeah, let's
And then
do
we'll
that.
do a little roving around
Yeah.
to see
Yeah.
how you're feeling,
Yeah.
what your drams you like. But moving on to the second dram that we have in front
Oh
of
yeah,
us.
sorry, we've been waffling
Yeah.
on.
No, that's okay.
Any thoughts on the Carsebridge? Anyone like it?
Yeah, good.
Anyone dislike it?
You can be honest.
Good.
Oh my god, no one dares say anything yet.
If you dislike it, you're out the door.
I really
can.
wasn't being disparaging when I mentioned that there was a bit of a kind of essence of downstairs. in it, but, you know,
absolutely.
That, kind of
There
like
is
That sounds interesting.
Back of an old wardrobe.
Is that you coming out with a wanky tasting note, Angus?
Dankness.
Yeah, I think it might
Oh,
be.
hang on, we do have a wanky
do we have
tasting
do we have a tasting note?
Yeah,
for
go
it.
on.
It tastes like a jelly baby.
I like that.
It does,
I like it a lot.
honestly.
Yeah.
It does.
What you need to do is dust the bottle
Wee
with
bear,
sugar.
Whatever. That's my wanky taste.
That's not wanky at
that's
all.
not bad.
That's delicious.
Okay, so on our second dram then, so that would be the one that's closest to you.
Yeah.
Or was closest to you. What have we got here then, George?
We've got a Japanese blended whiskey that's definitely not all Japanese.
Well, you
But some
don't
of it
know
will be
that. Yeah, it is. No, some of it is. Yeah.
It's almost certainly a blend of Japanese and Scotch.
Yeah.
I don't know the makeup. I did try to find out the makeup.
You tried.
That's lovely.
Yeah, yes.
So did I. We both failed.
So we bought it. It was in an IBC. It sat in an IBC for a few years at least. The oldest whiskey that's in there was originally
The oldest Japanese distiller.
was
It
in
was 84.
1984.
Right.
But the youngest component's 21 years old.
Wow.
It's just a bit of a curiosity.
So did you buy it already blended then?
Yes.
So it was already
Left
someone.
over.
And did you
blended
bottle it
stuff.
straight from the ICB?
IBC.
Yeah.
IBC.
Yeah.
ICB.
That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
ICI.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's delightful. That's
Yeah.
It's a thinker. It's a thinker, not a drinker. It's delightful. It's quite herbaceous.
I think it's quite Christmas light. It's got that kind of Christmas cookie thing going on.
We don't know for certain, but I've spent a lot of time drinking this whiskey, as it's my job.
yeah.
Aha.
And
Now it comes out.
I am certain that there is a mix of bourbon and sherry.
Yeah,
The
definitely.
sherry is there, but it's light.
Yeah.
I would hazard a guess that it would be second fill sherry. There's some second fill sherry in there, and it is delicious.
And what
And
ABV is this? Sorry, this is a.
It's at 47.4.
So again, very drinkable. Really, I mean, the
Yeah.
smoothness
Oh,
on
that's
this is
lush.
absolutely.
If I do say myself,
That's absolutely
that
delightful.
is so nice.
And the thing is, as well, one of the things about the podcast has always been about challenging perceptions and things.
Yeah.
And there would have been a time, not that long ago, probably before we started the podcast, where I would have first of all turned my nose up at the fact that it was a blend. And
Yep.
secondly, turned my nose up at the fact that it wasn't Scotch.
Yeah.
I'd have gone like, that will not be any good because Scotch is the only whiskey that you can drink and should drink, and blended whiskey is no good. Whereas actually, what we've learned, Angus, over the podcast is
Yeah.
that some of the best whiskies you can get
Yeah.
are blended
Yeah.
whiskies.
And also another thing when you're talking about perceptions changing is I've mentioned it on the pod briefly. It's like, you know, in when I was buying whiskey before, when I'd just buy a bottle, I wouldn't really look at the ABV. It wouldn't be a thing that I'd consider. Whereas now it's almost the first thing I'm looking at is
Really?
what's the ABV, and it's like that is just one of, you know, it's something that I'm looking at on a bottle.
Yeah.
Whereas,
Yeah.
you know, just out of interest more than anything. But
No, it's
Well,
that's
it's the language of the whiskey, really, isn't
yeah,
it?
it's a cracking drama. And how difficult is it? Have you done any blending yourselves?
Not yet.
Right.
I've played around with cask samples at home.
Tabletop stuff,
Yeah,
yeah.
the bench
Yeah.
blending at home with samples and cutting down, you know, to different ABVs. I think that and I've always thought this, that if every single component is high quality, you always are going to end up with a good blend.
Yeah.
What's amazing is that sometimes
Don't know about that, to be honest.
what's amazing is that sometimes you can
don't
actually
agree with that.
take a bunch of stuff that individually are quite run of the mill, and when they come together, they
Yeah.
actually create something that's better than every single component combined, and
Yes.
that I find baffling because
Yeah.
that doesn't seem to compute.
It says,
This is a blending question you might not know the answer to. I don't know, but it just crossed my mind when you were talking about having purchased casks of whiskey that were below 40%. If you blended that with something else, then at the end result, the ABV was above 40%.
Yeah.
Can you call it whiskey? It's
Of course,
not,
yeah.
it's not,
We've done that once before.
Yeah.
We did that behind the bar. There's an Invergordon 35-year-old. We had two casks, and
One of them had dropped.
One of them had dropped to like 39 point something, but we happened to have a sister cask. The problem was is that the sister cask was off, so we used just enough to boost the ABV above 40, and then
So instead,
getting
more
bottled up-
tablespooning rather than teaspooning.
and then
well done, Anya. That's a good joke there for Anya. There you go. Well done, Anya. There you go, eh?
Trademark.
Well, now if I make a joke and I don't get a round of applause, I'll be disappointed.
and we're just about to release actually a North British that was 30.
That's our 6th North British, you know.
I know, yeah, we do like North British.
Yeah, no. We enjoy it when you bring them out because they're great.
Do you know what it is though? Our retailers seem to love the North
Yeah.
British. It seems to fly off the shelves, like.
It's an interesting one because it's we reference this point so often on the podcast as Mark Davidson, the Jolly Toper, who was on, and he's great,
Such a
and his
nice
tastings
canny
are
chap.
absolutely fantastic.
They're really fun.
And one of the things that he talked about was he worked at Carden Heads, and across the road it was the Edinburgh School of Languages and things, and he got friendly with one of the lecturers or tutors there, and they said, why don't you come in and do a wee tasting for our students, people who have travelled to Scotland for the very first time, and they give them a whisky experience.
Yeah.
And he always put a grain in there, and it was people trying whisky for the first time, and blind as well. It was blind in the sense that they didn't know what they were drinking.
Yeah.
You could have told them what they were drinking, but they weren't going to go, oh, I know what that is. They didn't know the difference between a grain or a single malt or anything like that. And he said 9 times out of 10, when I did out of the 3 drams or 4 or 5 drams, what was your favourite? It was often people would say, I enjoyed the grain.
The grain.
And you suddenly say, and that's somebody going into it completely blind with no previous perceptions or anything. Whereas there's so many people who would go, grains can't be any good because they're just used to bulk out blends or anything like that.
Do you know what it is though? Like at festivals and that, you get the odd one, right? And I don't know whether it's just because the kind of festivals we're going to, like it's a niche whiskey drinker anyway. But we always have, honestly, nothing but positivity.
Yeah, it's great.
And grain as well. I've noticed that some people that are relatively new to whiskey and who it scares them quite a lot because of its lower ABV, the smoothness. It always seems to be a really good gateway into the category.
And I drive along that Western Approach Road, which is just around behind the diggers and also behind the distillery, and it has been known that when I drive past there, I wind the window down and just
Girl, you thirsty?
We've got a question here.
No, I was just saying that I've got friends who are very snobby, wouldn't drink a grain at all, and got neighbours who just don't drink whiskey at all. And I bought a bottle of the Tricara North British 33-year-old.
Oh, it's a cracker.
And it solved both the problems.
Yeah,
'Cause
they
the
were.
guys are going, shit, this is good. This is good. And the people across the road are going, this whiskey's drinkable. It's really nice. And that actually, it's a great bottle that solved both problems. But I think it is the age. I mean, we say grain's good, but by the time you get up to the age you're talking about, that Tricara was 33 years of age. And it's a wonderful one. I don't know what it'd be like at 5 years of age or 3 years of
Maybe
age.
you would though. I mean, how often do you drink really young grain? And it goes back to that respect that it's shown. If younger grain was put into better quality wood we have a totally different situation on our hands?
Well, you're talking about, you're saying about you've bottled a 15-year-old now.
Yeah.
We're still talking about the grain, despite on the blend and things like that. But at the same time, it is interesting where you see that an economic climate having an impact on what distilleries are doing. And you go back through the sort of decades of whiskey and you look at different times of ups and downs, and we will talk about what the current climate for the whiskey industry as well. But you're looking at when the whiskey lock happened, or even before I think it was like the 20s, 30s, 40s, I can't remember which part of it was, but I remember that's when suddenly whiskey makers had too much whiskey and too much aged whiskey. So what they actually started doing was putting age statements on blends, because they were having to do it, and the only winner was the consumer, because suddenly what they were saying was like, shit, we need to try and shift some of this older stock to try and claw back some money on it and put it into, and it was put into blends, and it was a great time for the whiskey culture, tough time for the industry, but at the same time, yes, it will be interesting to see. Looking at what the current economic climate looks like now, we had, it was Stephen Woodcock again said that in 2021, 2020, you could buy a bourbon cask for $40.
Yeah.
And last year, a bourbon cask was costing $200 to buy from America.
It's costing us about 200
sheets,
200 to 250 quid at the moment. And when I started,
so that's for an empty bourbon cask.
Well, when I started the business, when you're buying in serious bulk like these big distilling companies are, then in 2020, it was costing them about 40, 50 quid, and it was costing me about, if I was buying 100 at a time or something, it was like 80 quid or something, and now it's like it's easily over 200.
Should we pour some more whiskies?
It's a mess. Yeah, let's.
Well, let's what we'll do is we'll go around. Get some tasting notes. The wankier the better. We do have for people who haven't been to the podcast we used to record before. There is a feature on the podcast called Wanky Tasting Notes, so we really try and go all out on them. But have you been to one of these before? How are you finding it so far?
It's excellent. I heard your podcast of the last one. That was excellent. Not quite sure what I'm able to give you wanky tasting notes, but
usually when you get a third or fourth, it really starts.
It's not coming out by then, yeah.
No, I think for me that first one, I've never drank whiskey that old before. Like, drank lots of whiskey. Don't get me wrong, but 48.
Yes, you look like a professional.
That's special, isn't it?
That's older than me by a little bit, and it's like it's kind of humbling. Like thinking I'm bringing this piece of history in front of me.
From a closed distillery as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Probably not going to get that one again.
That's it, exactly.
But definitely for that first one, for me, I think similar to you were saying with like jelly babies, it's like an icing sugary note, kind of ethereal like puff. It was
one of the things that Greg Urquhart, who's a friend of the pod and from Glenmore Spirits, he came on and he did a tasting with us, and one of the things I've been at a tasting with Greg before, and he does something which I really have started to do, and he always leaves a little bit in the previous dram because sometimes it's nice to go back and see what it's like. Absolutely. And I did that there, and a completely different flavour profile coming back in there, really tropical, fruity. The jelly baby one.
That's just
so far. That's what we've got.
You've knocked it.
Any more? You've got any other ones? How are you finding that blend? And pass the mic along as well to anybody else who's got anything to say.
I'm going to say second dram, I'm getting dark chocolate orange.
Yeah.
With a little bit of Battenberg.
Yeah.
Now, how's that for a wanky
knocking
tasting
them
note?
out apart tonight.
I'm going to pass it on now.
I get quite
Vicky's shaking her head.
Cocoa nibs in the Japanese.
Cocoa nibs. Sorry, that was a terrible Scouse accent.
See, for the Japanese, so with the blend, is the grain component Scotch? And then
Which we honestly don't know.
No idea.
Probably.
I don't know anything about
we did try
Japanese
to find
grain,
out. So my understanding is that this is excess stock left over for a large bottling that was done for some Japanese company. I don't know, maybe a giveaway for their employees or something. And there was some leftover stock, and I
bought it.
Foolishly bought the whole lot.
I think we got
in hindsight.
How many bottles
it's like
did we get?
800 and something bottles. In hindsight,
Shit.
what I could have done is I could have just said, can I just take like 200 litres out of that? But I didn't.
I think we've managed to sell so far. I think I've got 500 bottles left. So I think I'll be sitting on this for a few years.
What's that cost for a bottle of that stuff?
It's not cheap.
I think it's about 190 quid.
190, yeah.
Because it's prestigious.
It's a good brand.
It's prestigious
If it says
liquid.
Japanese on it and it's
Sorry, that sounds pure gross.
prestigious.
Hello.
How do you feel about this then?
I really like the one that Angus said tasted like downstairs, but the Japanese was fantastic.
Thank you.
Very, very good.
Yeah.
Can I ask a really basic kind of practicality question
Do it.
about casks and the sourcing thereof?
Yes.
So, sorry, this is going to get a bit. Sorry.
I love this.
Sorry.
He needs both hands on the mic for this one.
Comfortable.
How do bourbon producers find themselves with excess casks? They're making fresh every time. They are.
Yeah. So I mean, that law was brought in after Prohibition.
Yeah.
Brought in by lobbyists for the timber industry, largely.
So they have to be
Clever fuckers.
I think the reason that bourbon casks are so expensive, bourbon barrels are so expensive now, it's because, over the last 10 years, you've got brand new single malt distilleries in virtually every country in Europe. You've got an extra several hundred micro distilleries all over the North America, all over Asia, Australia, New Zealand, just everywhere. And so the demand is right up there, and that's driven the price up.
So it's kind of simple economics.
Someone said this podcast not that long ago that there's more distilleries now in New York than there are in Scotland.
Never in this
There are
life.
more whiskey distilleries in Australia than there are in Scotland.
So
Shit.
there you go.
Plenty in Tasmania.
Farouk, friend of the pod, you're here regularly. How are you feeling so far?
Yeah, it's good. I've enjoyed it. I've had one Fragrant Drops before, which was in North British, a 29, which was
Nice, that was a good one. The bee's knees.
Yeah,
that was
brilliant. Full
That was lovely.
first fill bourbon.
I had that behind the bar before here.
I still have it behind the bar
Yeah.
here because it's amazing.
Stunning. I agree.
Oh, thanks
Thank
so
you.
much.
No.
Well, we're going to get our glasses recharged, so please make sure you've finished them and rinsed them out as well if you'd like, and then we'll get straight back to it to hear about the next 2 drams that we've got.
Thank you very much.
Right, so we've got more drams in front of us. The drams have been poured. Everyone's got their glasses recharged. We are now moving on to dram number 3 and 4. Bearing in mind as well, I should say, the extra dram has really set us back a little bit. So I'm really sorry about this, folks, having to chuck in an extra whiskey for you guys.
So it's actually an extra $5, so we'll be collecting that at the end as well.
Absolutely.
41.
So what are we on now? This is a Glen Grant, I believe.
Yes, it is.
Are you guys sure you know?
Sorry, we're just fighting amongst
Well, what I would
ourselves.
say is actually, you guys got married since the last time we recorded the podcast.
Yes.
Absolutely fantastic. Yeah, great stuff. I'd love to take credit for it, like we brought you together, but you were already together when you came on the podcast.
We were, yeah.
And now you met. I mean, whilst we sit. So first of all, actually, what are we drinking here?
All right, Glen Grant, 21 years old, single cask, first fill bourbon barrel, full maturation, high ABV, 58.2. Ooh. 201 bottles.
Now we're talking.
So it's wild when you think of but
this is another one.
201 bottles out of this, and the 48-year-old Carsebridge, we got 202 bottles out of it. Now, granted, that was a hogshead.
Yeah.
But still, what an incredible yield
for 48 years.
for a 48-year-old. For a 48-year-old.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but with this, we did bugger all to it. Yeah. Bought it as we buy everything on spec. It just sounded good on paper. The price was just about doable so that we could bottle it up. So what we do is when I come across when I'm offered certain casks, Rachel will run it through our bottling calculator or casculator TM, and she'll punch in the figures.
Punch it.
And see if we can bottle it for so that it retails for a reasonable price.
A price that's okay on the market.
So that we're not the most expensive. If we could be the cheapest or towards the cheaper end, fantastic. But we don't ever want to bottle something we don't ever want to be someone who bottles the most expensive Carsebridge 48.
And why is that, George?
Because otherwise people won't buy them.
No, the answer was supposed to be because we're both whiskey drinkers and we care about being able to buy.
We can edit that in. Care about the consumer.
Sure, that too, yeah.
We can cut that first bit and edit that bit. Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you.
But
Thank you.
when it comes to first of all, again, how much would if this is bottles available and someone wants to buy it, how much would you be able to purchase this?
Usually it depends on the retailer, but it's between 130 and 140 quid.
3 drams we've had over 100 quid.
Whiskey,
That's great.
So it's a hard one, isn't it? Because times are hard, right? But it's quite it's prestigious-ish distillery.
It is.
But for a single cask Glen Grant that's 21 years old, fully aged in a first fill bourbon, it's a big chunk of change. Come on, let's be real. 130, 140 quid is what it is. That's
You like that one?
You like that one the best?
There you go.
It's a bit of a fruity bomb, this one.
It is very
fruity,
Now,
yeah.
the thing is, as well,
But,
we're drinking out of Glen Grant, and it's also the weekend of Scotland versus Italy at the rugby. If we'd been smart, we could have tried to get a few Italians in here and flog it to them.
Because Glen Grant is Italy's favourite single malt.
It is.
Is it really?
You don't know
that.
this?
Oh shit! Yeah, of course. The majors reserving that.
Like we have like the old some old Glen Grant bottles at home.
We do, aye.
I picked up in a dusty Italian shop
That's
a few
it.
years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's
an old 5-year-old. They used to do Glen Grant used to be really big in Italy.
Yeah.
They used to have 5-year-olds in these old tatty looking bottles. Delicious liquid,
That is lush.
Yeah, I
It's
picked
really
up a few
nice, isn't it?
in some tatty, dusty wine shop in Florence a few years ago.
But it's juicy,
It's
buttery.
57%. You said
58.2.
58, but drinkable like that as well. You can have a bit of water with it, but at the same time.
Just all the fruits just coming through. Apricot, apples.
And I guess the first
orange.
time I ever tried a Glen Grant was you bought
was it myself that bought you the bottle, Graham?
Well, we bought a bottle in an emergency
In a co-op.
in the co-op in Inverness for a train trip back to Edinburgh.
We did.
And
That sounds very desperate, to be honest.
well,
guys.
to be honest, I was a bit like Glen Grant 10. I'd never really tried a Glen
I
Grant.
kind of had to assure Graham that this was drinkable stuff,
And it was
you
absolutely
would appreciate
fantastic.
it.
And again, a friend of ours who he's not a whiskey drinker as such, but can have this horrible snobbiness about it. And it was a 10, and he was like, "It can't be any good if it's a 10-year-old whiskey." Which again, and we said, "Just try it, shut up and drink it." And he was like, "That's bloody good, actually. Please force whiskey on your friends responsibly if you're going to." But it's funny how people could be like that. We bought it out of the co-op, so it can't be any good. It's 10 years old, so it can't be any good. But it was good, bloody value whiskey.
My desperate comment wasn't that you were getting it from the shop. It was that you needed whiskey
For a train back.
with each other. Do you know what I mean?
It's a common trait. That train trip back from Inverness or up north, a train or a bus. We've shared some great drams, actually.
We have, yeah.
If you want to go back to the podcast
The
from 2
Glen
weeks
Murray,
ago, the podcast picture is Angus sitting in full go on a train with a bottle of Glen Murray in his hands. It looks like he's drinking it from the bottle, but he did have a glass. I can guarantee.
I've worked that one out. Wasn't actually back from Inverness. That was back from
Montrose.
Arbroath.
Montrose.
I was Arbroath. But
Anyway, we enjoy a dram
I was
on a
very
train.
close to Edinburgh at the time. I'd
But
clearly been drinking it a couple of hours.
We talked about when you guys started bickering. We talked about that you're a married couple,
Yes.
And it's just marital bliss, isn't it?
In fact, I was trying to remember back because
I think so. Yeah.
Well, somebody's got to. I
Shall we just
suppose.
break into a game of Mr. and Mrs. while we're on the podcast?
Oh dear me! I'm only joking, Pet.
But I was trying to think about the last time we spoke because the thing is, we had you on the podcast as a dedicated episode, but one of the great things is that we've been lucky enough to attend a lot of whiskey festivals, and we've bumped into you quite a few of them.
I'm usually hungover.
Well,
Every time I see you,
I'm
and,
usually pissed.
and Vicky's there, and you've got a microphone in my face. I'm like, oh my god, please no.
Well,
Where's my sunglasses?
There's a classic.
I'm always hungover this way.
Yes,
No, but you're not in front of the camera, Vicky.
But I had a clip of it, but we decided not to put it up because it was the Edinburgh.
I'm not surprised.
It was the Edinburgh Whisky Festival, and it was basically like 45 seconds until the gates opened and everyone came in. A huge queue outside Murrayfield. And Angus and I were running through the hall, stopping and talking to people. And here were you guys, everyone else is set up and ready to go.
And we came in 2 minutes beforehand.
And you've gone, we had bloody car trouble this morning and this. And then I've just decided,
Oh shit, yeah.
and I've just
forgot
stuck a
about that.
microphone under your nose. Now,
I know.
fair play, Rachel just carried on and gave me the I'm too busy to talk to him. George just dropped everything and stopped and said, oh, actually, we've got some great whiskies for you.
She's better at setting up the stand than I am.
Yeah,
so.
it was great. But it is, I mean,
Any excuse.
as a married couple then,
This is it. It's the classic. If I do a bad job, I'll never be asked to do it again, you see.
as a married couple and working in whiskey and working together, well, first of all, the story of you meeting, it was that you mentioned the Soho Whisky Club.
Yeah, that's
It was
right.
through the Soho Whisky Club that you both met.
Yeah.
Caught eyes across the room.
Well, not really, to be honest. Like,
No, we were kind of knew
We were
each
mates
other.
for years, weren't we?
Yeah, we were friends for years.
Because did you not work at the Soho Whisky Club?
yeah.
I was the manager. Yeah, I fraternised with the clientele,
Yeah.
and
that's right.
Rachel fraternised with the with the staff.
With you, yeah, that's true. No, we were otherwise attached, and then our relationships kind of
petered out.
petered out, I would say, and then we just kind of bumped uglies, didn't we? And then that was it.
It's a story.
It's the story for the ages and the romance novels now. Yeah.
But as well as like you mentioned about the Starward as well, when you talk about your 3 drams, is you didn't just suddenly start bottling. You've worked in the whiskey industry. You've been the manager at Soho Whisky Club.
There was a bit of a journey. It started at Soho Whisky Club in London, which is a lovely little members club.
It's very good.
Tucked away above a whiskey shop in the heart of Soho, and it started there. And then when Rachel and I got together, I already had a flight and visa booked for Australia because I got it into my head after drinking a lot of whiskey and learning about whiskey and reading about it and doing a little bit of writing on it.
And you've done your certificate as well.
I decided I wanted to learn to make it, and naturally the obvious place to go to was the other side of the planet.
Where else?
So I booked my flight and visa, and then Rachel and I got together, and I
bumped uglies.
Bumped uglies, and I did the
wedding night wasn't much of a surprise.
I did a course with the Institute of Brewing and Distilling, and I'm glad I did because that basically got me the job when we went. So we went to Australia. We did some camping up and down the east coast, and then I contacted every single distillery in Australia. Asking for a job.
You got fuck all back, didn't you?
I got fuck all back, and then we were absolutely hanging on a Friday, so hungover, eating McDonald's for breakfast, and I got a phone call, and we were up near Cairns, and I got a phone call from someone at Starward saying, "Can you come in for an interview Monday 9 a.m?" I was like, "Yeah, no problem."
So cared for geography.
Just half the continent.
Yeah, it was a problem.
I floored it.
Yeah, we travelled back. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
You drove?
We were
At
camping.
walk speed.
We
At
So
walk
wait a minute,
speed.
you're talking about
this is on Friday to get to Melbourne for
I
Monday.
did not remain under the speed limit, but yeah, I absolutely floored it there.
Yeah.
I think so it was Friday. That was Friday morning. So drove all day Friday, camped all day Saturday, camped, and then got there Sunday evening. Went to the interview on Monday morning and nailed it. And then we spent like a year and a half that ensued in the wonderful city of Melbourne.
Yeah,
I mean,
what a city! What a city!
It's maybe the best fucking city in the world. It's just
One of, yeah.
it's right up there.
Apart from Edinburgh, of course. But to be honest,
so is Edinburgh. We both felt a great affinity with Melbourne, and I feel, if anything, an even stronger affinity with Edinburgh.
has he pulled it back?
But if a city apart from
Thank you.
a city apart from Edinburgh that's been mentioned the most on the podcast, definitely Melbourne.
Well, I've
Yeah.
just Rachel said earlier, Google is our friend, and it certainly is. So 2,824 kilometres from Cairns to Melbourne.
Like I said,
And
warp speed, mate.
It does
Warp
say driving. It would take fastest route is 1 day and 6 hours to get
I
there.
think you managed to shave a couple hours off that.
That's quite a journey.
And we camped 2 nights. So we slept during that.
Yes, but one of the things you've mentioned about, Angus has mentioned there, there's sort of the Melbourne mafia that has been on the podcast.
Yeah.
There's so many people that have connections with Australia that have gone out to Australia, they've worked out in Australia, they've worked in brewing distilleries.
It's like a twin city.
It certainly is.
Edinburgh.
Yeah, and
Is it actually?
No.
No.
But it's like it.
but it should be. But
There is a weird
It's like a
connection.
rite
It's
of passage.
like
Yeah.
hospitality.
We've had so
crossover
many
there,
people, and
honestly.
Angus and I like to think that there have been, at some point, there will have been 2 or 3 people who didn't know at the time that were sitting in a bar in Melbourne drinking whiskey, didn't know each other, but yet one day they would all cross paths by being on the Whiskey Stories podcast. But Starward, you kick-started.
Nice?
Well, you kick-started the journey for us to find the Starward ginger beer. Cask.
Yes,
And we did.
Did you like it?
Yeah,
Did you like it?
We had it just before Christmas at
What
Simon.
batch number was it?
I have no
I can't
idea.
remember
Shut
what,
up,
but
man.
it was
Jesus
one of the.
Christ.
It wasn't one of the early ones. It was slightly
Gimp.
later. It was at Simon Smith's. Now remind me of his.
The Lost Close.
The Lost Close. Simon Smith's.
Yeah.
Oh, what a geezer he is.
Yeah,
Because
another
basically-
Melbourne connection, and then he had the ginger beer, and he said, "Here you are, lads. I think you'd like to try it."
I love it. The
Yeah, I
first
like it
batch,
as well.
a lot of people complained that it was too gingery. I tried the first batch and I thought that is just brilliant.
Yeah.
That is ginger beer and whiskey in a glass.
What we
Stunning.
tried wasn't the first batch, because you did say earlier batches have been more.
They
Yeah.
toned it down.
Toned it down. I love, because initially when I tasted it, I thought, well, I'm not really getting much ginger beer here, and then it came, and then again.
But that's the joy. That's the joys of whiskey that isn't Scotch, I guess.
Yeah.
Because and I totally respect and understand why our category is as it is. It's a whole world of flavours to explore, but it is nice when other distilleries can be a bit more experimental with it. It's one of the joys of for me, world whiskey. Like,
absolutely.
You know what I mean?
And especially as well. I think that evening there was we were talking about it the other day, Lithuanian whiskey that was
blueberry wine cask.
So wow. But wouldn't we be allowed to do that here? I think.
I don't think so. No,
I wouldn't
Why
recommend
not?
it.
If it's wine.
I wouldn't recommend it, but the fact that they can do it is interesting.
It wasn't anything.
It's a talking point of nothing else.
Blueberry wine. Blueberry wine.
Blueberry wine, yeah.
Well, why can some people use grapefruit sour beer to age a cask and not blueberry wine?
If we get our own warehouse,
No,
I will do what I damn well please.
Well, one of the things going back to the ginger beer, the Starward ginger beer thing is it holds because it's Bundaberg ginger beer, isn't it? Bundy. Yeah, I believe so. Now the reason that holds, because basically that's what ticked the box for me.
Yeah.
Was many years ago I worked at the dockyards in Methil Hill, which is quite a place.
It sounds.
I wouldn't recommend it.
I feel like you've seen some things, mate. You've seen some things.
Methil Hill.
All right.
Well, that's somewhere else, George.
Methyl no more.
The thing is that they do say that the guy who invented the toothbrush is from Methil Hill.
Wow.
Because if it had been from anybody else, it would have been called the teeth brush. But hello to all our Methil Hill listeners. Yeah.
Oh my
You'll
God.
be listening to this in 25 years' time when you find the podcast. But I used to work a night shift in Methil Hill on the dockyard at the seafront. And one of the things I used to love was a lovely chilled bottle of Bundaberg ginger beer. That lovely little, it's got the great pool cap and it makes a great.
If you drink one of those every day, you will have a tooth. You only need a tooth.
So refreshing.
I loved it. And what I used to do, and there used to be two of us that would work on the night shift, and I'd wait till around about midnight, 1 o'clock. Say, I think it's time for my ginger beer. And he'd go, no, don't do it, Graham, don't do it. And I'd open it and I'd take a sip, and I'd be speaking to him as I did it. And then as soon as I take a sip, I'd just burst into an Aussie accent and make out like, because I've drank the Bundaberg thing, I'd burst into this Aussie accent. When you're sleep deprived at 1 o'clock in the morning and the rain is driving off the Firth of Forth on the seafront, and you've got me speaking in an Aussie accent, used to annoy him. I said, one day I'll be in Australia and I'm going to go. And I got to visit, and I remember going to Australia and being on the beach in Sydney at Bondi Beach and sourcing a bottle of Bundaberg and sitting there drinking it. So when you guys said on the podcast that there was this ginger beer Australian whiskey, I probably could have tried a lot harder to find it. But at the same time, when we did find it on the podcast,
find it. It was great. It really cut through you nicely, that ginger. It was, So I like that kind of crystallized ginger you get. It's nice.
I mean, ginger and whiskey does go well. We all know it.
Yes,
we know,
absolutely.
Jameson's and dry ginger. It's a dash of lime. It's just a lovely little drink.
Yeah.
You were talking earlier on about blending. My only little venture into blending is my infinity bottle. So my infinity bottle, it's one of these things that when it's sitting lovely, it's just you don't want to add anything to it because it's really, really nice. But then sometimes you'll add something to it and it's just like, oh, I've spoilt it now. And one experiment is if you get the syrup from stem ginger, so if you've got a jar of stem ginger, I've got a man nodding at the end there, just add a little dash of the syrup from the stem ginger, give it a stir over ice. What
That
a lovely
sounds
concoction.
delicious.
It is really nice.
I think, by the way, everyone, you should be working on your 4th dram now.
Yes. I don't have that because George poured me 2 of the first of the 3rd dram. Right, so that's our Glen Grant. First of all, thoughts on that? Everyone, hands up that enjoyed that one.
Yeah. Does anyone?
We've got a favourite dram so far.
Does anyone have a tasting note for the 3rd
Go
one
on,
that
Tash.
would like to put you on the spot?
No,
you don't
the
have
Glen
to.
Grant. You got one for the
Glen Grant.
Thank you, Square.
My wanky tasting note is, I'm gonna say like a really dry but sticky ginger cake.
There you go.
Oh God, that sounds delicious.
There you are.
There we go.
You got that one, Vicky, as well? You're getting that. Anyone else want to add to that? Jay,
You've got a brilliant nose.
Jay, you're a blender. You must have loads of these tasted. Oh, look, I'm under pressure now. That's it.
Yeah, I really want to, because green apple was mentioned, it does give a bit of green starburst to me. Just that sort of burst of fresh flavour. I really like it.
That's brilliant. Thank you.
Great. So what are we on now?
So the next one, sorry George, you can go for it.
Inchgower, 14 years old. Spent the last
4. It sounded like you said 40, sorry.
14 years old.
T-E-double-F.
Which is spelled 1-4.
There you go.
It's 14 years old. I re-racked it 2.5, nearly 3 years ago. I re-racked it into a first fill Sauterne cask. Just did it on a whim, no rhyme or reason. You know, I'm to be honest, of all the single malts, of all the Diageo, workhorse distilleries, I'll be honest, it's only more recently that I'm getting to really know Inchgower.
Yeah.
Is Inchgower classed as a workhorse distillery though for Diageo?
Yeah,
for sure. But you never.
We've got some good stories from that.
Big component in bells.
I just did it on, we had the cask and I must have tried the cask and I must have thought
it needs something.
It needs a finish.
Needs a little something.
And this was a while ago, and then I kind of just forgot about it.
You're not supposed to say that.
No, I'm just being honest.
This is a strategic decision.
So.
And what's the label on this one? It's a crown.
Well, it's a nod to.
It's a cheeky nod.
It's a nod to Chateau Yquem, which the logo of Chateau Yquem is a crown.
So this is where the Sauterne.
No, it's not actually.
No.
No. Just
a nod.
Just a nod. Just because it's the most famous.
I love Chateau Yquem.
Yeah.
This is what, 50?
57.7%. But with Inchgower, it's a surprisingly coastal, saline spirit. Really, it's very
for
salty.
a non-peated one,
and then you've just got this very hefty 2.5 year finish in a first fill Sauterne barrique, and so it's just very sweet and very salty.
Love it.
It really,
love it.
I find it absolutely delightful. We bottled this. When was it bottled? So we would have released this in like November.
August? Oh, November.
Yeah. So it was bottled at the end of September of last year. So we would have, because it takes a while between when it goes into the glass and then when the label goes on and then it goes to the distribution warehouse. All riveting stuff. I'm sure you'll agree. So we would have launched it in November.
It's a funny one, isn't it?
What was this retail? Sorry.
This one retails about 75 sheets.
Cracking.
So
honestly.
for me, it's as a bottler, I try and predict what I think people will like, as does George, and I sometimes get it wrong with the ones that I think are going to be the most divisive. This one I didn't think was going to be as divisive as it is, but even George and I disagree on this one. This one is not for everyone. If you don't have a sweet tooth, this one might be a little bit smack around the face.
It's like it's sweet, it's sugar and salt.
Is anyone like what Rachel's saying? There's a lot of people nodding their head and going, "This is absolutely cracking." Is there anyone going, "Not for me," because it maybe is a bit too sweet? Is there anyone?
Too sweet for me, if I'm honest.
Vicky. Talk to us. Come on, Vicky.
Oh wait, man, you're not usually this shy.
I think it's interesting. I think it challenges your palate. It really does. It's almost like the salted licorice.
Yeah.
Right?
That's a good one.
You get the hit of the salt, the saline, and then you get the sweetness. And then it takes your palate. This is going to sound really wanky, I'm so sorry.
No.
But like,
we love it. We love it.
Ham it up.
But like my tongue's going mental. Like it's sweet and then it's salty and then it's that sweet almost. It is like that really caramel, then it goes back to that proper, it's hitting every single part of my tongue.
Yeah.
I think it's very interesting. I think it's cracking, actually. It's a dram that makes you think.
Brilliant.
It is.
You're champing at the bit. You're literally champing at the bit here.
Campfit is like, it's like you're sitting on, so I'm from the northeast, sitting on Aberdeen Harbour.
Where from?
Aberdeenshire. I'm near.
Real Northeast Shire. Real North Scotland.
North and further east.
That we live on.
You're sitting either on Aberdeen Harbour or Banff. Banff.
Only somebody from Banff would call it Banff.
Sandend Huntley, Sandend or something like that. And you've got like a wee little Kinpolsteining tray of sticky toffee pudding, and you're getting that sea breeze, solid air at the same time. That's what it reminds me of.
This dram is taking
It's
places,
stunning.
girl.
It's absolutely stunning.
I mean, I don't know how many times.
That's probably the wankiest we've had tonight.
Angus, Angus, we're going to have to drive to Bomb and get ourselves. We're going to have to go up to. We're going to go to Bomb with a sticky toffee pudding.
Where tray of sticky toffee pudding.
Stand there with the sea spray hitting us in the face. This tastes just like that Inchgower 14
We'll have to.
For me, I would say that this is easily the loudest whiskey we've had. And the finish is absolutely like
It's still there.
Still there. It is. It's almost like, you know, when you have something really intense, like, you know, like an Islay, like an Octomore or something. Like the finish is so long. It's so big. It's just totally coats the mouth.
It leads us on to a question. Sorry, it leads us on to a
Great.
question here where one of the things that we've talked about, and it's a question that I think we had a discussion last year about what do you think topics of conversation will be like in 2024, 2025 and stuff like that. And one of the things that we were saying is, and you mentioned it earlier on about the sort of the boundaries that the Scotch whisky industry are held to versus what the rest of the world are and stuff like that. But one of the things I actually asked was, when does a finish stop being a finish and start to become a secondary maturation? Because when can you say we're finished that in there for a matter of months versus, I mean, you said that it's 2 years and you forgot about it.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think that any legislation needs to come in for that.
No.
I think that there's some flexibility. Some, you know, on a couple of labels we've said double matured.
Yeah.
I tend to just say finished. I managed to squeeze in 2.5 YR finish in a fresh Sauterbury, because our labels are small. We had to shrink our labels on our bottles because they kept on getting creased. And so we only have a finite amount of space, and we want like a nice little space for a pretty illustration. But finish and double maturation, I mean, like, it's one of the same, really. I mean, like, it's, you know, there's double maturation. A lot of people say 2 years.
Yeah.
But you know, if you've got like a 30-year-old whiskey and you give it a 2.5-year finish, that's not a double maturation. If the whiskey's 30 years old,
of course, it's only a tiny little bit.
It's just a little bit.
But what you're kind of saying isn't really just time; it's the flavour as well, right?
Yeah. I mean, I remember on the podcast, one of the things that stood out, because you were one of the first, the early podcasts that we did, first 10, I believe. And one of the things that you talked about was, and it's like from an Indy Bottler, and you've mentioned it tonight, and incidentally, of the 6 drams that we're having, this is the first one that we've had where you've finished it.
We've tinkered with it.
So yeah, and that's what's a really, you get this parcel of casks, you buy them, you get a spreadsheet sent through to you, I'd imagine, or something like that, where you go, okay, that looks good, but at the same time, the seller is the one that holds all the cards. They say, if you're going to buy this, you've got to buy it all, or you've got to buy it as is, you can't sample it and what have you. And I think was it a Balblair 25 or a Balblair 21?
25,
and you said that was one of the first times that you opened the cask, but also you said, this has been maturing this for 25 years. All I could really do is mess it up rather than try and make it, rather than just put it out as it is. So the bravery, does it?
If it tastes good, it tastes good.
But does it play an effect on your mind when you're putting together, when you're putting together a product? Do you feel pressure to go, should we finish this? Put it in a fancy finish for 3 months, 6 months to do something.
We never feel pressure for that.
No, I mean, like, so generally, if something tastes yum, that's bloody delicious, like great, we can bottle that. Then there's no point in doing a finish.
Yeah.
I know that some
more commercially minded people.
Some other bottlers will religiously finish virtually everything. I just think if it's good, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Well, that's it.
If it already tastes great, don't fuck around with it. Having said that, we're giving a little Oloroso finish on the 50-year-old in McGordon, but I wouldn't normally do that. The only reason that I am doing that is because I trust the quality of the quarter cask that I put half of the 50-year-old whiskey into.
It's this one.
Because we're about to try shortly the whiskey from that quarter cask, the Oloroso
so
quarter cask.
we knew it was good quality.
Also, I'm just giving it just a little bit of a finish.
A blush.
Yeah.
An Oloroso blush TM.
I like it. A little blush.
Thanks.
Now the Inchgower as well, Angus. I mentioned them loads on this podcast because it was such a good podcast to listen to the episode. If you get a chance, Stevie Woodcock, and one of the things in his journey into whiskey, he actually joined Inchgower. It was his first
production manager
at Inchgower. It was all about, and his phrase about the Inchgower distillery was, it was like if you'd taken. He said it was like you took all the components of a working distillery up into a plane and kicked them out. And he said that is how Inchgower was, because I think he talked about the fact that they looked at doing a reshuffle of the distillery in the 60s, but they tried to do it at a point where they didn't want to stop production. Yeah. So basically what they had to start doing was like, well, if we want to keep production moving, we have to just move that to there and that's the next thing. But he talked about even things like the fact that to work out the pressure in the pressure in the stills. The guy used to tap the still until he knows how high it went. Yeah. And they also had the thing going, if you hit that, if you put that in there and then walk at a certain pace to get to there and then hit the button, you'll get it bang on every single time.
So this is a guy who had worked there clearly for years and years, and he knew as soon as he saw the thing on the dial, whatever it was, if he moved at that point to the other side of the room, once he got to the other side of the room, that was the point where you
ready to rock.
And it was a nice contrast when we were actually at Portleith Distillery on Wednesday.
Did you have a good time?
Yeah, we had a great time. But you've got this purpose-built distillery that everything's been built with kind of we're building this at the top and it feeds down to this and it feeds down here, feeds down to the bottom. We're using as less energy as possible, etc., etc. It's all been purpose-built, meticulously planned out, and yet you've got somewhere like Inchgower, which is just organically like Stephen said. It's like if you got everything that you would, all the components you need for a distillery, and you just kicked it out of a plane and it landed.
He said that's what Inchgower was.
I love that.
And eventually, I think he was part of.
Beautiful about it.
I think by the time I don't know if this 14-year-old would have been part of the previous one, but he was part of the refurbish of it, where they got 5 million, he said, and they stripped it back and redid it. But what's very interesting about this Inchgower and also about the Carsebridge that we had is Inchgower is not a whiskey that's readily available on the market.
It's not.
There's a flora and fauna, I think that's absolutely cracking as well.
Every now and then there's one in the Diageo special releases every now and then.
Yeah, I think I've had there's a
20.
But there's a what's the lane? Not Hunter Lane. Douglas Lane. They've got I can't remember the name of the bottling that they have, the brand that they have, but they've done an Inchgower as well that I've had.
But I mean, Inchgower for me, I mean, when I was kind of learning about whiskey, when I hadn't drunk a lot of whiskey and I was just kind of going, it was one of those ones that just. It completely kind of blindsided you because there you are and it's this Speyside whiskey and you kind of have an idea of what a Speyside whiskey should be.
Sure.
And then you try, for me it was the Flora and Fauna Inchgower and you're like,
absolutely.
What is this?
Yeah.
It's this coastal maritime salty dram.
Absolutely.
That's nothing like a Glenfarclas or a thingy or classic Speyside. So it's one of these ones that just bends that whole the whole kind of notion, which is important. The whole notion of like distillery region and regional character.
Right, I'm going to do a bit of roving again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just watch my bum there.
It's all right. I've got you.
I'm going to go to this gentleman here. This is the first time, in fact, I managed to sell you a ticket at the bar here tonight.
You just caught me on the guard, haven't you? I have. You want to be on camera, but I'm on camera.
Well, but first of all, you were quick to mention that Melbourne is one of the best cities in the world.
Edinburgh's the best city in the world.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And now you're also very quick to point out as well that the Glen Grant 21 was your favourite of the evening so far.
The third out of 4, yeah, absolutely.
And that was, what was it that took you about that one?
Just strength and power just baffled me.
Yeah.
Some of these other ones are a bit mild and meek, but I want just power.
There we go, the power of the whiskey. Power of the males. Excellent, mate. Drink responsibly.
Can we,
what about yourself, Luke? What about yourself?
Last one was salted pretzels.
Salted pretzels, there we go.
Salty. Fermented fruits, that's what that was good.
What about in Bomf or just...
Just Bomf, mate, Bomf.
Were you bumped with that one? There we go, absolutely bumped it. What about yourself, you like that one?
Oh, aye. I don't think they've all been really brilliant, and actually it's been great to have a chance to taste all of them, so I really enjoyed that. I couldn't pick one out.
And did you come across Fragrant Drops before tonight?
No. So
fabulous.
first time.
And you're going to buy one of the, I mean, there's a couple of bottles there for about 200 quid. You're going to go, we'll get you one. We'll get you to buy one before you go. Well, go on, hey, go on. But what's your favourite been so far?
I quite like the third one as well. In a weird way, maybe like that seemed like it was like the whiskiest whiskey.
Yeah, I understand that.
Whiskiest whiskey? I like that. There we go. We'll take that one.
No, I get that totally.
Yeah, I would agree that the first three got better and better. The fourth one did punch in the mouth. As for Bonth, I've got in trouble talking about bonfires in this show before, so that's me all done. But they've been delicious, as we said.
Right. Jake, you forgot your top button tonight.
You slag.
I'm getting done in here. My confidence has gone downhill. Where'd you get your sauternes from? Your cask?
Speyside.
Speyside Cooperage.
Speyside,
yeah. Like,
we trust them. We trust them.
We've done two or three Sauterne, three Sauterne finishes.
And they've all been delish.
And they've all been because Sauterne, they're not real.
It's a really clean cask.
They're not real Sauterne.
It's a very
casks.
clean cask. Was it certified? Sorry, I was getting very...
No, they're not real Sauterne casks.
Yeah.
Like the number of casks that are bottled in Sauterne within a year versus the number of whiskey distilleries that fill Sauterne casks, there's a bit of a discrepancy between that number. So what the industry does is they use a high pressure washer to blast casks with some sort of Sauterne wine, and but high pressure wash. So it forces the Sauterne into the wood. This is not a real Sauterne cask.
Needs must though, do you know what I mean? Needs must.
In the same way that sherry casks are not real sherry casks. 95%,
And that's
98% of sherry casks
isn't it?
are not sherry casks.
Yeah.
They are casks that have been seasoned. No, with the Sauterne, it's not seasoning. This is a high pressure washer. You know, and with a bung closure. And
do that again.
Like Archer.
All right, okay. Jesus. Too much.
And under high pressure, they blast the inside of the cask with Sauterne, high pressure. But what it does is it has the desired result.
Do you think anyone wants to ever clean their driveway with a high pressure washer and Sauternes?
I wouldn't want to. There'd be bugs all over it.
It would be, wouldn't it?
Wait a minute. Is that legal for?
Yeah.
Can you do that?
Yeah.
They do it. So
They do it, yeah. But like, sherry casks are not like 98% or.
where'd you get that figure from, George?
My butthole.
Yeah, I thought
so. They're not real sherry casks. So like, they are allowed to. They're sherry seasoned casks.
And is that the same? So like sherry?
No, so there's certified and then there's non-certified. So you can get Oloroso casks, and then there's Oloroso sherry casks. And there is a difference betwixt the two.
It's the time of the season.
There we go. Right, sir. This is the first time you've ever been here.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you very much. I'd love to ask a wee question about the difference in between the casks that you've not really applied in towards the difference. Like, I'm a big history person myself, so the grain that you started with is something that is like almost to me a heritage project, and it is a wonderful thing to do, to actually do that. Yeah. And that's a really interesting thing in comparison to actually changing these spirits and then applying a finish like you do.
Yeah.
I wonder what you enjoy more. Do you enjoy applying more of a finish, or do you enjoy this sort of...
From an ego point of view, I would say from an interested sort of dicking around point of view, an experimental point of view, it's obviously really great when you get something right, and then other people get to enjoy it, and you're like, oh, I'm class. I say me, it's him that makes all the finishing decisions. To be fair, so
yeah.
But we like George said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Do you know what I mean? And you have got a real responsibility not to, because we're bottlers, right? And yeah, we pick casks, and yeah, we would decide what we're gonna, at what point we're gonna bottle it, and how old it's gonna be, etc. But that's someone else's work. That's someone else's work. It's not our work, and we've got a responsibility to those people and to the wider. Oh God, I sound like a right one.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
I'm gonna shut up. But in answer to your question, like sometimes you just shouldn't do it if it already tastes good.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
So when it comes to stuff that we haven't finished, and I'm not gonna in any way suggest that this is my response. This is my work.
No.
I mean, I put it into. I bought it. I tasted it. I went, oh, it's bloody delicious.
That's exactly what he sounds like
ready,
too.
It's ready to go into the bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a decision, but it's an easy decision to make because you're tasting it like, yum, that's delicious. I get a kick out of giving finishes to casks. I am quite, and I overuse this phrase, but I'm quite gung-ho. I have always believed this, and I sound like a broken record when I say this. I believe that if you've got good spirit and good wood quality, the result is going to be great. Certain spirits do lend themselves to certain types of wood, but ultimately, good spirit, good wood, it's going to be good whiskey. When I was re-racking stuff, giving casks finishes before we had a brand, because I just knew that we were heading in that direction.
Yeah.
So I was doing some funky finishes and some unusual finishes. One of the kind of the proudest finishes that I've done, which was in our inaugural releases 2 years ago, was an Ardmore that I just randomly, I was like, oh yeah, fuck it, stick it into a mezcal barrel. So I stuck it into a mezcal barrel. And after 3 months, sampled it, stunning.
Was not, it was disgusting.
After 6 months, sampled it,
Still disgusting. Still disgusting.
9 months, stunning. And then 12 months,
stunning.
Yeah. But for me, it just got better and better.
For me, it was cack until the last one.
And I can't get hold of any mezcal. I'm glad I did that one, but like after 3 months, I tried to buy like another dozen mezcal barrels just running with it. But there's just, competing
It's
against
hard.
all the huge corporations for mezcal barrels. And also, over 90% of mezcal is not aged. So like, it's going to end up being like sherry.
I was going to say, what you need to do is you need to get your high pressure washer and a big IPC of
My guy.
mezcal.
Yeah, exactly. Except that mezcal has to be bottled. You can't buy bulk mezcal.
There we go.
Oh, there's your problem then.
Right, well, what we're going to do is we are reaching our final 2 drams of the evening. Ooh, we're all. But it's been a great Friday night so far. Really enjoyed myself. We've had some fantastic drams, and looking forward to a good few more. So the last 2 drams, we've just finished off our Inchcar 14. George, this next dram here, I have it written down. A Linkwood 8-year-old.
Yep.
See.
Linkwood.
No, it's this one, Bits.
There we go. Yep, Linkwood 8 when it was 5. So it was originally in a generic refilled bourbon hogshead, and when it was 5 and a bit years old. Wait, hold on. 6 and a bit years old. I split the hogshead into 2 first fill Oloroso quarter casks. Left them for, it says 2 years, but I think it's much closer to 3. And then just ordered samples from them both. One of them was super intense, and then the other one was a bit lighter. Sat at home on the sofa. And just threw them into the same glass, and it kind of balanced out the difference, and so that's that.
So you married them together? Yep.
Yeah. So it's just brought the whiskey back together after 2 to 3 years.
And the label of this one here is that a?
So it's a swan because it's Linkwood. Obviously, you've got the
fauna. The swan is
representing the swan pond.
Yeah. They have resident swans at the distillery,
which is nice.
And then just a couple of casks on there too.
As a sherry tart, I've been christened the sherry tart of the podcast. Unfairly, I would say.
Well, you're the sherry tart.
I'm the sherry tart of the. I'm the sherry tart of the podcast. I've been.
I believe that.
Ross christened me that, right? Ross.
Takes
He'll
one to
sit
know
there
one.
and drink a Japanese slipper in Uno Mas, and also has admitted to on the podcast enjoying a sweet sherry as a 21-year-old.
He sounds like he's projecting. He's projecting.
He is, but that is having tasted. And the ABV of this one.
57 something. What is it?
57.8.
And again, you could sip that comfortably without having to add too much water, if any, at all. Absolutely delightful.
Now, I did pick something up in the audience when you said, George, that had been spent 5 years in a refill bourbon barrel. You said, "Oh, just like your coffee."
Mark bought me some coffee beans that were finished in a linkwood.
Yeah.
In a linkwood, they were just.
Coffee beans finished in a
linkwood. No, it's not uncommon.
Artisan Roast, the guys down at
Artisan Roast.
Yeah, that dude.
Is it, it's Fable? Is it the independent bottle? They've been finishing them in their old casks.
Yeah, no, I think
I thought it was woven. Is it not woven?
Woven have been doing something as well recently with coffee.
I think I met him at the
market in Leith.
The market in Leith, which where we live, and
why not? Do you know what I mean?
You know what? He should have picked up. He should have picked up some of the empties. Actually,
whiskey finished coffee. There you go. Was it? Is it
Just
good?
a quick question about the cask thing, and it's the idea about single cask. So you start with a single cask of liquid.
Yes.
Yeah.
You put it into 2 quarter casks.
Yeah.
And then put in the bottle. Is that single cask or not?
doesn't matter. We don't say single cask on the label.
No, but he's just asking you.
Is it single cask?
No.
No, it's
No.
It's not.
SWA would
Yeah.
suggest that that's not.
Aye, so
That's
technically-
right.
I wrote the same thing and where
SWA.
the guy from Little Brown Dog said,
Hello to anyone. Hello to anyone from the SWA. who's listening. We are looking for sponsorship.
Shades of when we booed Ofcom, Graham.
Yeah,
I mean,
aye, that was.
It's definitely not a single cask. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know because it's technically.
No, it's not.
Right. Okay. Right. Fine.
So on
Definitely not single cask.
Fine.
On that note,
Yeah.
once you move
Single casks.
one cask that could have come from many casks, once you move that from one bonded warehouse to another, any traceability of what happened to that whiskey vanishes.
Yeah, that's
And
that's the same with a lot of things, isn't it? Between warehouses.
So honestly, that's the case. So there are many things that you could easily call a single cask because there's no evidence to say otherwise.
Yeah. So this is single casks.
yeah,
I don't think it is. I mean, it says finished in 2 fresh Oloroso quarter casks.
But I think what we're saying is
Also, it's been finished, man. Like
there are lots of people, not lots. There are some people who are saying single cask on the bottle.
Yes.
Who they're not
And it's
single
not.
cask, even though it's one cask of whiskey that's gone from that cask to another cask.
I don't think that's
no
there's
longer
no.
single
I don't think people are necessarily trying to hoodwink anyone there. I think that there's along with a lot of rules with SWA and bottling and stuff. There's just a lot of kind of confusion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't think people are setting out to deliberately hoodwink people. I just think sometimes the rules are a little bit hard to interpret. Some people are very good at creatively interpreting those rules, but I don't think most people set out to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we want to talk about tonight is we've mentioned about the challenges associated with the whiskey industry at the moment, and we mentioned earlier about the fact that. Like the whiskey industry, you talked about your casks that had gone into the single grain whiskey.
Yeah.
And you're saying about like the economic climate. Now we've heard people talking over the last year, 12, 15 months about the fact that like it's becoming harder and harder. We've already mentioned cask costs that we're having to see for people like yourself, bottlers and distilleries.
Yeah.
The energy prices are rising, the cost of wages everything's going up, so the cost of whiskey is going up. We're seeing that.
Yes.
But one of the things that we've also seen very recently within the last few months is the good friends of ourselves, good friends of the podcast, Woodrow's of Edinburgh, the Race to the Bottom edition, the 101 Macallan, the Highland Mother Lover.
The Mother Lover.
So from your own point of view,
Mother
you guys are in the industry, you guys are buying casks, you guys are selling whiskey.
Yeah.
What's the challenges that you guys think you're facing, and what's it like in that kind of situation with the sort of race to the bottom, so to speak?
Well, to be honest, I mean, especially the UK market for whiskey, and particularly for independent bottling, and that's what I'll speak to because that's my experience. It's bloody challenging because of all the reasons you've just mentioned. People are skinned. People that shouldn't be skinned are skinned. Like, do you know what I mean? People that are usually comfortable are skinned. Which, you know, like for the first time ever, you're hearing people that have got a relatively decent salary that are like, oh shit, I'm going to have to not buy that extra thing and whatnot. But also for us as independent bottlers, everyone and their dog seems to be doing it as well. And I guess why not? It's a free market, but it's there's a lot of hobbyists as well, which sometimes clouds it's just... People like new and exciting things, I guess, and so their head is turned. I mean, we're very lucky in the sense that I think we've got quite a really good, loyal, supporting base of buyers, and obviously that's really lush and humbling that someone would trust our taste and palate and what we're doing. But you know, there are so many people trying to hand at it. Probably a little bit too late. I think we might have been a bit too late as well. Do you know what I mean? In relation to the kind of race to the bottom thing, Woodrow's, Megan and Woody were doing that kind of I'm not going to really speak to their intentions because I think that they've written a really interesting article to that.
No.
They've written a really good article online about it, and they say why they've done it. For me personally, I'm seeing quite a lot of anti-independent bottler sort of rhetoric online right now. I think there's a bit of conflation of issues with the price of everything going up, the price of OB bottling's going up, and people are kind of looking at independent bottlers, and I've seen a lot of people kind of almost saying, not that we're the bad guys, but why are we so expensive?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so when Woodrow's did that very interesting sort of experiment, there was a lot of, I honestly thought it was really cool, and I read quite a few things online where people didn't think it was that cool, and people are kind of thinking, you know, what's the problem if it's cheaper for the consumer?
Well, it's an interesting position to be in because we've talked about this in the pod lots, I guess, is the fact that, and I mentioned it earlier on, is the industry seems to be going into an area where some people will tell you that the industry is going into a decline. Some people will say that the decline is nothing to panic about. It's just the way it works historically and stuff like that.
Exactly.
I spoke to somebody who'd been in the industry for over 25, 30 years, and he said, look, the whiskey industry in my times had two layers, very good and good. And he said, and right now we're just going down to the good times, but we're just coming out of the very good times. However, there's other people that will tell you, you know, and there's a lot of new distilleries out there. And as we've talked about, the costs associated to that are massive. We've only talked about tonight about the costs of casks. George, you've mentioned about situations where you've bought casks and you're going, I can't really afford to buy these or anything like that. That's the cask. That doesn't include the costs of bottle, glass, labels, all the other costs associated with you guys to try and get that out, which affects your pricing as well.
The tax is the biggest fucker.
It's the tax.
To be honest.
Right.
The tax man.
The tax is shite.
And that's just gone up.
With regards to Woody, I thought what he did was awesome. Good on him. I said at the time, kudos. Race to the bottom. I mean, so
I think it's quite interesting juxtaposition because there's been a lot of chat within the whiskey industry about everything's been over
inflated.
Not overinflated, but over. What's the word? I'm struggling for the word, but where you kind of not over commodify, but over. You know, you're saturated. No, making things more
premiumized,
over premiumized. Whereas this is the kind of the other side of the coin to some extent.
You know, the market will correct itself. It always has done. If prices
not
go
correct
up,
itself that much though.
If prices go up and too much, then people won't buy the bottles, and the prices will come down. Market does correct itself. The entire Scotch whisky industry operates on a 7-year cycle.
Right.
Always has done.
Yeah.
It has done since long before anyone in this room was alive.
And how does that affect? I mean, one of the things
it's no different now. You know, going back 5 to 10 years ago, you know, we have enjoyed. I think we've basked in the sun of glorious Scotch whisky boom. And we're just on the other side of it. It's still good. Like the fact that there are so many new independent bottlers coming out, as you say, it's very good or good. Either way, it's still good. It is getting a crowded market, and that's fine. It just means that, there's more competition, so shops, retailers, and whiskey drinkers, the people in this room, they're going to be more discerning. Then they're going to be less inclined to overpay for something when there's a nice spread of options.
That's very nice for you, but you don't have to sell the bottles, darling.
Well, that's the thing. When you look at it and say from an independent bottler's point of view, one of the things that we've talked about on the podcast before is the fact that the distilleries, there's a lot of chat about overproduction. People went into hyperdrive, and no one's talking about lowering production. Yeah. Everyone for the last 3, 4, 5 years has always been talking about raising production. Every distillery said we've upped our production, and everyone's now starting to go.
In conjunction with new distilleries.
Everyone's starting to go, hang on a minute now. If everyone keeps upping their production and no one's tailoring it off or tapering it and saying, let's lower it down. Now, that means
they are now.
Well, they are. We're starting to see that. Yeah,
there are distilleries that are.
That's what he was saying.
That are going from 7 days to 5 days.
Yeah, but
from 5 days
or seasonal.
3 days.
Yeah, but the thing is there's going to be potentially a lot of whiskey sitting around.
Aye.
Now, from a cash flow point of view and for an income point of view from these distilleries, does that put you in a positive position in the sense that it is a big money earner for distilleries to use independent bottlers like yourselves to suddenly go, hang on a minute, we've got an inventory of cask stock that we could probably shift that we don't need.
Well, put it this way.
I'm loving it. I've been buying loads of really affordable casks that are really old, that are, in some cases, 30-40% cheaper than they were 2 years ago. I'm pure buzzing about it. It's great to buy as well.
I'm dead happy. Well, and that's the thing is, last year we talked to Woody and Megan about it, and we've talked to other independent bottlers about it, and as you said, it's a buyer's market now, and one of the challenges that people have said is that, and you've mentioned it tonight, is the seller holds a lot of the cards in that sense. They can say, no, you'll buy this as a job lot or as it is. You don't get a chance to sample it or anything like that, and that's just hard lines. If you get a dud cask, you get a dud cask. If you get a good cask, well done, you've done great on that. That's just part and parcel of it. Whereas now, and in the future, are we going to start to see you guys holding a little bit more power, and then it goes.
I hope so.
No, it won't.
But just with the pricing, then. In terms of the pricing, though, you're saying
the pricing is the most important thing. There's a lot of refill wood in Scotland. The pricing is the most important thing. To finish whiskey that's in knackered casks, exhausted wood, that's a minor expense compared to actually buying the stuff to begin with. I'm just happy that the prices are coming down.
Yeah.
There's well-aged stock that I'm being able to buy.
Yeah.
And, I'm not gonna. I might bottle. Like last week, I bought like a parcel of some casks from a single malt distillery, and I bought like 10 of them. I'm gonna bottle probably one next year if it tastes good, and then the others maybe one a year or 2 a year for the next few years. And they're in good wood too, which is great. But
everyone likes good wood.
But
I need to be put down, sorry. I'm so sorry.
Fair play. And
shit, sorry.
And no, I think right.
There you go.
Everyone likes good wood.
Trademark.
And that link with 8-year-old was fantastic.
It was fantastic, and it was.
So the last dram.
We are going to move on to the last dram.
Yeah,
last dram.
Yeah, but I would say on that link with 8, it was one of those drams that just like defies its age a wee bit.
Yeah, certainly does with the colour.
You would never have said
it's proper taste, isn't it? It's good, isn't it?
It's
good.
Delicious.
Like Linkwood. I think Linkwood, the spirit shines through a lot. It's still very red appley, very appley spirit.
It's sweet. It's like a toffee apple. And are you going to ask me the price? Because I'll tell you.
How much is that one? Take me back.
Depending on the retailer, it retails between £60 and £65.
16. That's good value there. There you go. Good value there. Fantastic. Right. So we're on to our last one, and Ardmore 14. I believe out of our 5 Indy Bottler Spotlights, is this the We've had quite
We've had
a few Ardmores.
Yeah, because Ardmore's delicious.
Ardmore is absolutely fantastic.
I love Ardmore.
I'd happily have more.
I love Ardmore.
Get more Ardmore.
So this is our third Ardmore that we've released in 2 years. They were all sister casks, weren't they? And you finished them all at the same time.
Yeah,
First
that's
one
right.
was
You finished them differently.
Yeah. So the first one was mezcal.
Right.
The second one was Appleton rum, right? A dark rum.
Yeah, dark rum.
And
yeah.
third one, the one that is in your glass, is, and I know some people don't like this term, but virgin oak. And this has had the longest finish out of all three, and it's been finished for 2.5 years. And it does something really, really interesting to the spirit. It's I'll just tell you and I'm just going to ruin it for you right now, because this is all you're going to be able to think about if you know what this is. It just tastes like fisherman's friends to me.
Oh, there we go. I was at the football on Tuesday.
It's like
and I was
menthol
standing
and-
next to somebody that was chewing a fisherman's friend. So
There
you
we'll
go.
have to see if it tastes a bit like that.
Please.
Were you in Banff?
No, I was standing next to you. I was standing next to you. It was a guy standing next to me, Graham.
I've not got to a drama this because I was a glass
All
behind.
right.
So if you
You're
wouldn't
a
mind
glass
pouring me a
behind.
small one, that'd be fantastic.
I didn't. Well, no, but fisherman's friend. I don't know what it is. It's one of those ones where if you're standing in the vicinity of someone having a fisherman's friend, you know they're having a fisherman's friend.
Yeah. It's a very sort of, there's a weird pepperminty sort of leathery note to it.
A minty whiskey.
61.6.
Yeah, so this is
61.6%.
61%. So
Have some water there.
61.6.
this guy is going to clean your sinuses out for sure.
It's
And
gonna help us through the night.
it's big, it's bold, it's dirty. There's an oiliness
Oh,
to it. It's I love this dram, but I know that it won't be for everyone. So the illustration on this
punchy.
one as well
That's
is
quite
a wee alligator. In reference to the fact that we believe that the cask was heavily charred, and as you know,
You can smell huge char on the nose.
yeah,
Yeah.
Well,
and there is a herbliness to it as well.
Lovely. Well, as we go through, I'm going to quickly go
It is
through
quite meaty,
our last dram as people are chatting. Gents, we've never. Is this the first Indy Bottler Spotlight that you guys have been to? How have you found it so far?
It's excellent. Thanks very much. Linkwood is something which I've tried before. Thompson Brothers did a really good.
They're brilliant.
Linkwood, which I really enjoyed. The one before was the
Inchgauer.
Inchgauer Sauterne.
which finished in the
Sauterne.
Sauterne. I think Ardnamurchan did a lovely Sauterne cask, and it reminded me of the Ardnamurchan Sauterne. So really, really nice. Two really good drams. Yeah.
Brilliant. What about yourself?
Liquid, it might sound really weird. I was getting a cola cube, you know.
Cola
but
cubes,
my,
yeah, yes,
my mouth
sweeties.
is not shredded like a cola cube. I actually enjoyed that experience much better. But it's that kind of sweet, kind of slightly kind of bitter at the same time. It was a lovely, absolutely liquid. It's great.
Fantastic. What about yourselves, ladies?
Absolutely delicious, every single one.
yes, sir.
I'm not so sure on the last one.
Fair shits, man. Fair shits.
Well, I'm from obviously. No, not
Huntley.
outside Huntley. I would like to add Gartley Parish, 10 minutes long road from Kennethman, and I
You
can't
can't
do it.
get on with it.
But everything else has been spectacular.
Oh, thanks.
Why does it where you're from have something to do with you not being able to take that?
I like to just reference it. It's just like free Huntley.
I'm from Huntley and it's just not for me, you know, it's not a Huntley dram, it's not a Huntley dram. Brilliant, right, I'll see you in Banff, right, what about yourself, mate?
The usual. This has been a really, really fantastic one. I'm from Greenock, and this is a Greenock dram. So.
You're from Greenock?
Yes, sir.
You've got it wrong, straight hair and curly teeth is usually what I'm saying.
I've got me. You've found me. They've allowed me in the Diggles for one night only. I've got to go back in the train. I've got to get myself back up to the West Coast as soon as I can.
Absolutely.
For now, I'm allowed to enjoy my whiskey. So
Great stuff.
You've been let out.
The boy for Greenock gives you a thumbs up, but the lassie for Huntley gives it a thumbs down. Jake, how's things with yourself?
It's been good. I'd say that Glen Grant is probably your highlight, to be honest.
The Glen Grant, the whiskey.
Yeah, the whiskey. I'm going to him.
having been to every independent bottler spotlight but one, this has been by far my favourite. This has been. This has been dram after dram, just getting better and better.
So was it the whiskey or the married couple bickering?
Shite patter from us.
Oh, I didn't listen to a word they said, but the whiskey.
Quite right. A wise man.
There was noise coming from the end of the room while I enjoyed some very splendid whiskey.
My guy. Come on the drams, enjoy the chat. What about you lads over here, Fruit?
I enjoyed it. Plenty of Tamil banter is what I would call that. You know what I mean?
Fantastic. I actually really like the last one as well.
It's my kind of dram as well.
They've all
You're
been
dirty.
fantastic. Whenever you say it's like, oh, it could be for some folk and some for that, I'm like, it's for me.
That's it. It's hard to somebody's pick. Graham, have you got a dram of the evening? I've got a favourite. I have to go. I think if I'm it's really, really tough.
Oh shit.
Right, you know it's a Friday night in the diggers. People are chucking. People are literally throwing glasses at us right now.
I was about to call you a coward as well. I got overconfident.
This Brandon Brush will be along shortly. To be honest, you can't follow that.
By the way, this is your fault.
It's a regular indictment. The crowd are literally sleeping. Right. Pull yourself together. I have to say, for me, I'm looking at Angus. It's hard to pick. There's been some fantastic. That blended Japanese.
I was spectacular.
But I think I have to stick to my sherry tart roots. That liquid 8-year-old for an 8-year-old really surprised me.
You tart.
But the Inchcover as well. The sweet and sour, sweetness and saltiness.
The umami.
Can we do a show? Can we just do a very quick show of hands? Raise your hand if your favourite dram was the Carsebridge.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, nice.
The Japanese.
Yeah.
One hand up for the Japanese. Oh, there's two. There's three up for the.
Yeah, by far.
Votes for the Inchcover as well.
The Linkwood.
Tart.
Slags.
Liquid gets an honourable mention from me.
And then the Ardmore.
Rachel, I'm a Todd.
And keep your hands down if you enjoyed the whole night. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you have been listening to the Whisky Stories podcast. A big thanks to George and Rachel for their fantastic drams. Excellent. Well done to them. Thank you so much for coming along. George, Rachel, how can if people are wanting any sort of marriage counselling or want to keep up to date,
just go to your local independent whiskey retailer.
Yeah, and how can people find out about what you guys are doing, social media?
Just go to your local whiskey.
Do you have Instagram, social media?
we're on Instagram.
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
It's usually me talking shite when I'm. Actually, I shouldn't say that, should I?
No,
it's true. It's true.
So it's Rachel talking shite when she's drunk. If you look at the Fragrant Drops Instagram.
But I am supposed to have done a newsletter, which we have done, I think, once. We need to get better at that. That's why I need to hire a bookkeeper. Anyway.
Right. Folk need to get their beds. Come on.
And that's it.
And that's all I got to say about that.
I think some folks are in their beds.
Listen, guys. You have been listening. I guess we've done it again. We've done it again. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming along. Listen to the Whisky Stories podcast. Don't forget you can check out all our downloads. You can go on YouTube and watch this if it's worth watching.
Please don't.
Wow. Put it on if you want to get to bed. There's loads that you can do here. You can find us on the Whisky Stories podcast on Instagram, Facebook group, Weekend Dram Roll Call on our Whisky Facebook group. It's absolutely fantastic. Get involved. Big thank you, George and Rachel. Thank you so much for coming along. Thanks for enjoying the rap.